So I'm going to try and talk about future-proofing universities in an age of digital disruption today. I've got the mic because I'm a little bit short and I want to walk around so that you can see me properly. So can everybody hear me okay? I have an Australian accent, so I'm going to try and talk slowly so that I'm more clear, because it's not very clear sometimes. So my topic is about how universities create innovative learning environments for tomorrow's world. And what I'm going to do is to talk about what we learned from COVID in universities and what we're now doing in COVID. So on the drive here, I was talking to a couple of my panel members about all the things that we learned how to do in COVID. Thank you. In ASEAN, we very quickly adjusted to COVID in education. We moved everything online really, really quickly. We did more than, I think, just put slides online. We did a lot of innovative things like flipped classrooms, a whole range of different things. We employed a range of different digital technologies that I'm going to talk about. I'm very proud to have worked in ASEAN and Malaysia during that time, because I know that some of the more mature markets in education in the UK, Australia, the US did not move that fast. We moved a lot faster and we were a lot more agile. And I think the secret now is, we were talking about this earlier, is to keep the best of what we learnt through COVID for the benefit of our students, but also think about what did they miss out on during COVID that we can now give back to them. So as you see here, students did great online. We did everything really well online, but students studied in their pajamas for 5 days. You know, they didn't get out of bed. Many of them suffered mental health issues. It just wasn't very, very healthy for them. And now we've got all of our students coming back to campus. It's wonderful. You should see the clubs and societies, the cafeteria's full, they're playing football, and it's just, you can see the complete difference now that they're back on campus. So my main subject today is about, don't lose sight of it, what it is we're trying to do. We've got so much technology available to us. We've got everything we could ever imagine that we wanted to do. And it's really easy to fall into the trap, I guess, of, well, that's a good idea, or that's a good idea, or let's implement that technology. And we lose sight of, actually, is that really going to benefit our students or not? The other thing I would say is that educational institutions are all different. We're not all the same. We're trying to do different things. Some of us are very traditional, like Oxford, I would say. I was just there last week, it's very traditional. They still use chains in the books on the library to make sure that people don't steal the really old 800-year-old books, very traditional. And then you have a university, say like the University of Phoenix, which is, you know, very clearly an agile online university, very well known for that. And all of the educational institutions are on the spectrum, somewhere in between those two kind of ends. It's really important to think about where we are, where your institution might be, or where the institutions you're serving might be on that spectrum, because it will help with the digital solutions. So I'm just going to go through how the technology can be used from the whole student journey, kind of a high-level overview. And then at the end, I'll have questions. So I don't need that pointer. Let me just see. So recruitment and onboarding for students was one of the most things that benefited the most from digital. Universities had traditionally used some digital, some more than others, but we used agents a lot, events, fairs, recruitment events, shows, open days, we had all these kinds of things. COVID came, we couldn't do any of that. We lost 2 of our 3 recruitment channels, agents and physical, in COVID. So we had to adapt really, really quickly to digital recruitment. And most universities did. This was things like analytics to work out what student demographics you were targeting by program, by age, by culture, by nationality, by interest, by background. We can do all of that now. I'm using social media marketing, and as you know, it's very well advanced now in social media marketing, where you can target literally almost down to the individual that you're trying to target by their demographics. But universities had to experiment a lot. You know, Facebook is not so great for student recruitment. Instagram, much better. TikTok, in the Middle East, YouTube, by far the best channel for student recruitment. LinkedIn, I would say in the subcontinent more, perhaps in India and Pakistan. And we learnt all this through trial and error, and we fine-tuned as we went. Search engine optimization, another great tool during COVID, and another one that we use now to really hone what students are looking for. Is it rankings? Is it graduate outcomes? Is it teaching quality? Is it the student experience? We can build all that now into the search engine optimization of our websites and of the Google searches and all of those things. And then even getting as far, once we've got the student enrolled, into induction. So now what we do is we use a lot of digital techniques to get students familiar with the university before they arrive. We had to do it during COVID, and it's one of the good things that we keep doing now, that we keep building on. So you can do a virtual reality tour of your accommodation and your room before you arrive. You can do a 360-degree tour of the campus to see how it's all laid out. You can have Zoom meetings and team meetings and interactive meetings with clubs and societies that you think that you might want to join. You can have wellness talks about this is what student life is like and this is what you should expect. But on the other side, it's really important to get them physically onto campus as well and not just rely on those digital tools. Because what you want to do, what we want to do, is to create a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling of these are my people and I can be with them and I can go to them if I have any troubles, anything wrong. And that's the bit that we missed during COVID, that we couldn't do for our students, that sense of belonging. So now we can incorporate the best of digital and build on those things and also have the on-campus experience as well. In terms of program delivery, one of the great things was moving towards more innovative models of delivery. So the flipped classroom model, you may have heard of this, it's very popular. Harvard's been doing it for a really long time. Is when you give the materials to the students ahead of time, you give them videos, case studies, readings, reading materials, and we could do all of that digitally now, of course. And then you bring them into a classroom, either physically or virtually, and you have a debate. You have an interactive discussion about those materials. Did you agree with that? Did you not agree with that? You have classmates debating one another. And the digital formats that we use in terms of Zoom and Teams and all of those, Moodle, all of those technologies can really be lent towards those kinds of interactive learning. There is a huge body of academic research that shows students learn much more successfully than when you just put up PowerPoint slides. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody, but their graduate outcomes are much better if they can learn things like critical thinking. And it's about using the technology to really get that critical thinking and that critical inquiry out of students in the classroom. We use gamification now in our courses. So literally we have a course at Nottingham on wildlife conservation, and it's gamified. You earn points as you go through it. You compete against your classmates. It's really fun. It's very interactive. It uses virtual reality in the course. So more and more we're building those kinds of things. We're increasingly getting students and staff asking for game screens and game consoles to do their university work. They just find it much more easy to teach and learn that way. Of course, we can now monitor progression much better using digital technologies. So we have learning analytics that tell us which students are doing well and which students are falling behind in their lectures or might not be doing very well on their assessments. And we can segment that now by what kind of student were they? Did they do a foundation course beforehand? Did they come directly into the degree? Are they an international student? What might be the reasons that are causing those kinds of things that are causing them to fall behind? And then we can put in interventions that help pick them up and lift them forward. We've got all of our analytics across platforms now, and this is a common thing for most universities. What I call superstar lectures, this is when we get experts in their field to come in and teach students in lectures. We get CEOs or CFOs or chief digital officers, great for lectures. And in the old days, we would have to invite them onto campus and, set them up and get them accommodation, and which was great, and we still do that. But now, of course, we just use the digital technology. We can beam them in from anywhere in the world. So one of our partners in the UK is Rolls-Royce. We can get the head of Rolls-Royce giving a lecture to our business students in Malaysia next Wednesday. So the digital technology is enabling that, and that helps students become much more career-focused, much more industry-integrated than just having the academic research-based lectures alone. And of course, we can create global classrooms now. So we can bring students together from all over the world, which helps give them skills such as cultural awareness, how to work in teams with people from different backgrounds, diversity, inclusion, a whole range of soft skills like diplomacy, negotiation. And we can quite easily do that with students from 80 or 90 countries in a global classroom to do some problem solving kind of projects. We couldn't really do that before, now we can. So co-creation of content is something that's becoming bigger and bigger in universities now. Traditionally, universities do very cutting edge research. We put that into our lectures, we teach that, our students graduate, they go and get a job. More and more, it's harder to keep up. The research often doesn't keep up with the kind of harder skills students, technical skills students need to go and get a job straight away. If you're an engineer, if you're an architect, if you're a data scientist particularly, I would say, you need that industry interface while you're at university so that when you go and get a job, you can hit the ground running. What we really like to do now is to gather our alumni and our industry partners, and industry partners are a huge part of university life now, to co-create our curriculum content with us, to help us build the learning assessments, to make sure that our students are job ready, that they're employable. Because after all, that's really what 80% of students, 20% of students want to go on to further study and become academics. 80% of students want to get a good job and a good salary and, stay in full-time employment. And this is a really good way of helping them. Now, the digital tools help us with this like never before. It was harder to get integration with industry and alumni because you'd have to find time to get together, you'd have to carve out a space to work together and collaborate on these things. Now we can do it using digital technology. You can be anywhere in the world. I can be working this afternoon with my team back in Malaysia on creating some content. It's terrific. We also work a lot with NGOs. So of course, we have a program with the World Bank, and we work with WWF and a number of other things. It also lends itself to those kinds of programs where we're creating programs for, so one of our programs is teaching teachers in Bangladesh. So we can do that now digitally. In fact, we conducted a whole cohort of masters teaching in Bangladesh throughout COVID, and we graduated them through COVID. And of course, we always talk about non-traditional education. We talk about a lot in universities now, micro-credentials. Micro-credentials is just really kind of a fancy word, I'm sure you all know, of saying, I'm going to split up a master's degree into component parts and you can do it at your own pace. And after you've done 8 of those units, you can add them all together and you get a master's. That's a micro-credential. Lifelong learning is becoming huge. It's a burgeoning market for us. People want to learn their passion. So I've been a lawyer for the last 40 years, for example, or say I've been a secretary somewhere, or I've been a business person, but really what I'm passionate in is architecture or cooking in Italy or now I can go back to university and I can study this, and then I can go on a tour of Italy as well. So universities are building this. Hey, and the technology is helping us do that too. Professional development, I think, goes without saying. We can offer all of these courses now online. Tailored industry courses is, I would say, the biggest growth area for higher education now, where we will go and work with a business to tailor make a course for their employees only. It's what I call B2B higher ed rather than B2C. Really popular, one of the biggest areas for universities, and of course we use the whole suite of digital technology that I've just explained to do that. So all of the things to do with the recruitment and marketing, the induction, the onboarding, we use all of those things, learning technologies, but we can also go into the business premises, teach there, then come away and do some additional scaffolding of teaching online. So in a kind of a hybrid sense. And credentialing. So now universities do what they call credentialing, which is again a digital innovation, where they will recognise that you have 10 years of experience in being a systems engineer, and they will give you a credential that says, we recognise that that is the same as you having done a master's degree or you having done a PG diploma. And because we recognise that, you are now eligible to come straight into the middle of this program here because you already have that experience. Deakin Digital, Deakin University, which I'll probably talk about in a minute too. Deakin University pioneered this in Australia and they've been very successful at it. And it's a really good way of attracting people who might not have gone to university when they first left school, but have such significant skills and experience now that we really want them to come back to university and be part of our community. So that credentialing, and that's all done digitally. It uses AI algorithms mostly to work out what your experience and skills are valued at and give you the credential for that. And student wellbeing. This is possibly one of the best parts about digital that we really could never have done without digital. It's now possible to put AI across things like websites or student learning systems to determine the level of engagement from students with their studies. Are they logging on to get their course materials? Did they download that lecture last week? Have they filled in this form to do the sports course or the course they're required to do? If they haven't, you can catch them through the AI and analytics. And then again, this is something that Deakin does very well. Deakin is the most digital university I'm aware of, actually. They were the first university to hire a CDO, a Chief Digital Officer for a university. I could be wrong, there might be others, but I know it very well. They put AI across their whole website and all learning management platforms. If you fall behind and you don't engage for 3 or 4 weeks as a student, you will get a phone call from a postgraduate student saying, "Are you all right? Is everything okay? Just checking in. You haven't logged on for a couple of weeks. Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there any special needs that you've got? Would you like to come and talk to someone?" This level of care was never possible before. Those students would have fallen through the cracks. But now we can do that. We can really take care of every individual. And we can route that student to a lecturer or to a counsellor or a doctor or even a nutritionist now that we employ in universities if that's what they need. We digitise accommodation as well, of course. You can look at your accommodation online. We can track student movement in the accommodation to make sure they're okay. It's all about safety, security, well-being. And we have student teams as well to follow up on all of those sorts of things if the students aren't well. And last, I'm just going to have a quick look at my time to see how I'm going. I think I'm okay. Last but not least, of course, graduations. During COVID, we graduated students online, which wasn't great for them, but we tried to make it fun. You know, we did lots of videos, lots of interactive videos with them and interviews with staff and so forth. Now, of course, we're back face to face and we're graduating the proper way. We're doing the full ceremony, which is lovely. But students still really like, I want my own personalised YouTube video of my graduation, or I want Instagram photo with my mum and dad, or, you know, so we still offer all of those digital kind of add-ons to the graduation ceremony now. They're huge, it's great. And the last one is alumni engagement. So alumni used to be thought of as asking them for donations. But honestly now, if we ask an alumni to help us develop a bachelor's degree, we could earn 20 times as much money from that degree as we ever would for asking them for money. Plus, they're part of our community. They can talk to our students. There's so much better benefit. So of course we have CRMs running, engagement channels, we have digital events with our alumni, we use a whole range of digital tools to engage with them, but we still have physical events with them as well. So I'm just going to close by saying the digital world has changed universities and it will continue to do so, but it's really important to be careful of balance. Students really still want all these things. They still want to sit in the library and study. They still want to go to the cafeteria and eat different food with their friends. They still want to hang out in accommodation. They still want to play sport on campus. Those things are never going to go away. And I would just, I guess my advice to anybody in an educational institution or anybody who's going to be working with them, think about their purpose, where they sit on the spectrum. Are they a residential campus or are they more of an online institution? What works best for them? What tools are going to be best for you, for your students to use? And be really, really picky about it. Pick the best possible ones. It's all about balance. And that's it from me. I'm happy to take questions if we've got time.
If there are any questions, please raise your hand. We will hand the mic to you.
Thank you, very inspiring lecture. I'm really very happy to learn more things from you. I'm from Hong Kong. You were also one of the, front runners in deploying technology in education, deploying Zoom. I still remember those days when we did a proof of concept exercise in probably 3 or 4 computer labs, combining a total of 600 computers, doing Zoom, Teams, and Cisco, what was that technology? Forgot. And ultimately, we found Zoom was a bit more stable, and then we went forward with Zoom. And after deploying Zoom for about half a year to a year, we noticed a big change in psychological behavior and the overall all-roundedness of a student's learning ability. As you're right, you're talking about having kids coming into class in pajamas, probably leaving their computer on while they go out and play. My own son, he joined Zoom classes and probably was at the background listening to music and probably going online and going to YouTube. And you mentioned that these are sort of technologies to use. Everybody knows these technologies. The challenges is how to make sure teaching is happening, but is the learning happening? That's a big question in big capital letters. Is learning really happening? How do you ensure? As you said, there's a balance, there's a checks. How do you check whether the learning is happening? That's my question.
So it's a really good question. And we had the same thing. We were finding students were leaving and going away for ages, and then how do you engage them? How do you get them to engage? And one of the things is about really careful curriculum design. So it's about that flipped classroom model where it's a debate on Zoom, where everybody is interacting with one another. You turn your screens on, you can't not turn your camera on, you have to, that's part of it. really forces them to be present, right? They have to be present for that lecture. They can't avoid it. Small group tutorials as well help students feel a little bit safer on that online environment where that they can interact with one another and talk to one another. But now it really is about very careful, innovative curriculum design and delivery design. So just in the last couple of months, we used to have a lot of support from IT specialists in teaching. We're now flipped that into investing in learning technology specialists, really academics who are expert in learning technologies, who say, this is how you deliver an engaging lecture online. It's not PowerPoint slides, it's not anything where the students can just switch off, but really thinking about how you can keep for an hour or 2 hours that constant engagement with students. And that's something that we need to put a lot of work into and a lot of thought into to get it right.
Hi. I'd like to pick on your analytics background and how this, and see what you think about this. So one of the interesting things about all these switches is I feel like the pendulum's currently going potentially the other way with education. Like prior to COVID, everything's about grit, resilience, having kids learn, how to mold, how to get ready for the workforce. Whereas now, it's the other way where education is designed for them. And yes, like there are great short-term, at least, strides. What do you think, what is the next step that you would consider taking to ensure that we keep an eye out, though, to make sure that our students don't lose that sense of grit or resilience and they don't end up falling in this habit of, oh, the world is going to cater for you? Yeah.
It's interesting, we were having a chat about that in the way over. It's a fine balance between making sure that they've got their well-being taken care of and that they're not having any mental health issues, and a bit of tough love, actually. Because if we're going to prepare them for the real world's not going to wrap them up in cotton wool and give them a break every 5 minutes. You're not going to get a couple of days off because you had an exam like we were talking about. You've got to go to work the next day. So we talk a lot about that balance and about that where is that balance and where is that tough love. And I think what works well for universities is having an open dialogue with students about it and being really frank about it, saying, this is what we're trying to do for you. How is it going to work best for you to do it? Things like making sure that they are accountable for lectures, that they are accountable for handing in their assignments, but also that we put them into situations where we call it work integrated learning and things like that, where they have to go and get a credit from somewhere in the workplace so that then they can learn they can't be on their mobile phone in a meeting, they can't turn up in their sneakers, nobody's going to help them to, nobody's going to go and get them a coffee, they're going to have to go and get that themselves, So it's about putting them more and more into those real life scenarios and those real life situations, but it's also about not giving them everything they ask for. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but...